I'm going to hit start webinar and get this party started. Okay, so we're going to see some participants coming in through the attendees. Dobry вечір, good evening. My name is Ihor Mikhachishin. I'm the Executive Director of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress. You're with us tonight for a special webinar from the Canada Revenue Agency. We are offering tonight's webinar in either English or Ukrainian. So if you would like to listen to the translation in Ukrainian, you can go to the bottom of your screen and click onto Ukrainian interpretation. Ivana, our translator, will be doing simultaneous translation of the slides there. So якщо ви хочете, бажаєте по-українськи чути, прошу натисніть знизу вашого екрану на українську мову, і Івана буде перекладати в українській мові всій текст, що буде нині бачено на презентації. We have a number of guests from the CRA who are here to present and answer your questions. Якщо ви маєте запитання, прошу натисніть на долині функцію Q&A. Excuse me. If you have a question that you'd like answered or reviewed, you can type it in the Q&A function button at the bottom. I think there's a team of people here who will be looking at those questions. We're not able to answer individual questions. Не можемо особисті питання, але так загально будемо слідкувати за них. With me is again my co-host Dmitro Malik, who will be doing the Q&A section at the end of tonight's presentation. Дмитро буде слідкувати за питаннями і буде при кінці координувати питання. Дякуємо фундації Канадсько-Українська фундація, що представляє цю програму з нами. We thank the Canada-Ukraine Foundation for their support of our programs. I'm not going to share the screen now because we have slides up already, but we do have other webinars available throughout the month of March, including on this Thursday in the healthcare system. So there's a lot of interesting information coming. Ми дуже бажаємо, щоб ви навчилися про цю важливу інформацію. Прошу відвідати наш вебсайт, щоб зареєструватися на вебінарі, котрі будуть в місяці вересні. So we're going to get started. Зараз починаємо. Again, якщо ви бажаєте слухати по-українськи, the presentation will be in English, but we have a simultaneous translation. Ivana, you just have to, each of you have to change into Ukrainian language mode. So прошу натисніть на українську мову, щоб слухати по-українськи. We're going to ask our friends Jamie, Shelley, and Aaron from the Canada Radio Agency to give their presentation. So over to the CRA team.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. We're very happy to be here. My name is Shelley, and I work for the Canada Revenue Agency as a senior CVITP and benefits outreach officer. Joining me today are my colleagues Jamie and Aaron, and they will be monitoring the chat and answering any questions that are received. Very happy to be here today. We'll be talking to you about the benefit and credit payments that you could be eligible for and how to apply for them. Today, we'll talk about the Canadian tax system, the services that we offer to help you with your taxes, as well as scams. Please feel free to scan the QR code on the screen using either your smartphone or a tablet. This QR code will take you to our webpage for newcomers, where you will find all of the information that we will be talking about today. Also, please keep in mind, especially if you are watching this on a recording, that the information on these slides it is accurate as of today, the 5th of March, but information does change often. So please refer to the canada.ca website for the most up-to-date information. So during this presentation, we will talk about resident of Canada for tax purposes and who needs to file a tax return, financial assistance under the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel, or CUAET, some of the benefits and credits you could get, including the GST HST tax credit, how to keep getting your payments, some valuable web addresses and phone numbers, how to manage your tax and benefit affairs securely, and how to protect yourself against scams. Note that for the rest of the presentation, I'll be calling the Canada Revenue Agency the CRA. So Canada's tax system is based on a self-assessment principle. So this means that every taxpayer is responsible for completing their own tax return. If you're a taxpayer, you are responsible for submitting your tax return by the deadline, generally April 30th every year, giving accurate and complete information to the CRA to process your tax return, reporting your income from all sources, paying your balance owing if you have one, and notifying the CRA of any changes to your personal information as soon as possible, such as your address or marital status. It's important to note that your immigration status and your yearly tax return help the CRA determine your eligibility for benefit and credit payments, as well as the amounts you receive. Some examples of benefit and credits that are the Canada Child Benefit and the Goods and Services or Harmonized Sales Tax or GST HST tax credit. So you become a resident of Canada for income tax purposes when you establish significant ties in Canada. And usually you establish these ties on the date you arrive in Canada. Significant residential ties to Canada include a home in Canada, a spouse or common law partner in Canada, and dependents who move to Canada to live with you. Note that your residency status for tax purposes is different from your immigration status. If you would like the CRA's opinion about your residency status, you can fill out Form NR 74, Determination of Residency Status. So one question you may be asking yourself is, do I have to do my taxes? If you've lived in Canada for part of the year, you may have to do your taxes. Completing a tax return and reporting your income lets you calculate whether you owe tax or will get a tax refund. In some situations, doing your taxes is mandatory. For example, if you have to pay tax or the CRA sent you a request to do so. But even if you don't have to do your taxes, it can still be a good idea. For instance, you'll need to do your taxes to claim a tax refund or get benefit and credit payments like the GST HST tax credit. You could be eligible to receive payments even if you didn't earn an income or your income is tax exempt. For a complete list of when you need to do your taxes, you can refer to the section, Do you have to file a tax return? On canada.ca/new to Canada, or in the T1 General Income Tax and Benefit Guide. To do your taxes in Canada, you'll need to understand your total income. Your total income includes your income from all sources, both from inside and outside of Canada. You can receive many different types of income, including employment income. Employment income includes any income you receive from your job. Your total income also includes tips or gratuities you receive from your job and different types of scholarships or grants. The reason we ask for the income you earned before you became a resident of Canada is to help us calculate how much you would be eligible to receive in benefit and credit payments for which you qualify. You will not be taxed on the income earned from another country. When filling out some benefit applications, you'll be asked to enter your income from all sources in Canadian dollars, the year you became a resident of Canada, and your income before you became a resident. If your spouse or common law partner is a non-resident of Canada during any part of the year, you must fill out Form CTB9, Canada Child Benefit Statement of Income, for each year or part of a year that they are a non-resident of Canada. You can also call 1-800-387-1193 to provide the income information. In Canada, some sources of income are non-taxable, and they do not have to be reported on the income tax return. For example, this can include benefit and credit payments you may be eligible to receive from the government, like the GST/HST credit and the Canada Child Benefit. It can also include any money or gifts received from parents or family members. To know what to report as income, go to the web address on your screen. To work in Canada and receive benefits and services from the government, you will need a social insurance number, also called a SIN. A SIN is a 9-digit identification number that is unique to you. You are the only person who is supposed to use it, and you are responsible for keeping it safe. You'll need to give your SIN to your employer when you start a job, and your bank when you open an account. You'll also need to provide your SIN to government agencies or departments to access a benefit or service, such as when filing your income tax and benefit return. SINs are issued by Service Canada. To find a Service Canada office near you, or for more information on applying for a SIN, go to the web address on your screen or call the toll-free numbers. If you or your spouse don't meet Service Canada's eligibility criteria for a SIN, you can still file an income tax and benefit return and apply for some benefits and credits with the CRA. To do so, send us your tax return and/or benefit and credit application with a note explaining why you or your spouse cannot get a SIN. Along with the note, include a photocopy of any document that proves your or your spouse's or common law partner's identity. For example, this could be a passport, driver's license, or any document issued by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. The CRA will then give you a temporary tax number you can use on your application forms and on your income tax and benefit return until you get your SIN. So let's start with benefits and credits. Did you know that you may be eligible for benefit and credit payments that the CRA administers, such as the Canada Child Benefit, the Goods and Services Tax or Harmonized Sales Tax Credit, more commonly known as the GST-HST credit, the Canada Workers Benefit, the Disability Tax Credit, and the Canada Dental Benefit. You may also be eligible for related federal, provincial, or territorial payments. Next, we'll talk about one of the CRA's most common credits, the Goods and Services Tax or Harmonized Sales Tax Credit, more commonly known as the GST-HST credit. The GST-HST credit is a quarterly tax-free payment for people with low and modest incomes. It helps offset the GST or HST they pay on goods and services. To get it, all you have to do is file your taxes every year, even if you have no income to report or tax-exempt income. The CRA will confirm if you are eligible and how much you will get when you do your taxes. Newcomers don't need to wait until it's time to file a tax return to apply for the GST-HST tax credit. They can apply as soon as they arrive in Canada using Form RC-151. Newcomers with children will need to complete Form RC-66, Canada Child Benefits Application, to apply for all child and family benefits, including the GST-HST tax credit. For more information, visit canada.ca/new-2-Canada. For more information on the GST-HST tax credit, visit canada.ca/GST-HST-credit. Just like the GST-HST credit, you may also be eligible to receive the Canada Carbon Rebate, or CCR, formerly the Climate Action Incentive Payment, when you turn 19. The Canada Carbon Rebate, or CCR, is a tax-free amount paid to help individuals and families offset the cost of the federal pollution pricing. It consists of a basic amount and a supplement for residents of small and rural communities. To be eligible, you need to be a resident of an eligible CCR province, such as Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and starting in July 2023, Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, or Prince Edward Island, on the first day of the payment month and the last day of the previous month. You must also meet at least one of these conditions during the same period. You must be 19 years of age or older, have or previously had a spouse or common law partner, or be or previously were a parent and live or previously lived with your child. If you are under 19, you must have or previously had a spouse or common law partner, or be or previously were a parent and live or previously lived with your child. Someone is ineligible if they are or were confined to a prison or similar institution for 90 days or more, or if they are deceased. The payment for the CCR will be universal and therefore not subject to a benefit reduction based on your adjusted family net income. The payment is issued in quarterly tax-free payments made through the benefit system. The amount you receive depends on your family situation and the province where you live. Like the GST-HST credit, to get the Climate Action Incentive payment, all you have to do is file your taxes every year, even if you have no income to report. Now we'll talk about the Canada Child Benefit, or CCB for short. The CCB is a tax-free monthly payment made to the primary caregiver of a child under 18 years of age. It helps them with the cost of raising that child. Payments are based on the number of children in your care, their ages, and your marital status. The CRA calculates benefit payments every July based on information from each parent's or common law partner's tax return from the year before. Applying for the CCB will also register the child for any related federal, provincial, or territorial payments. To be eligible for the CCB, you must meet all of the following conditions. Have or have applied for a social insurance number for yourself and spouse or common law partner who reside in Canada, if applicable. You must live with the child, and the child must be under 18 years of age. You must be primarily responsible for the care and upbringing of the child. And you must be a resident of Canada for tax purposes. You or your spouse or common law partner must also be one of the following: a Canadian citizen, a permanent resident, a protected person, a temporary resident who has lived in Canada for the previous 18 months and who has a valid permit on the 19th month, or an individual who is registered or entitled to be registered under the Indian Act. You are primarily responsible for the care and upbringing of the child if you supervise the child's daily activities and needs, make sure the child's medical needs are met, and arrange for childcare when necessary. A primary caregiver can be the child's mother, father, grandparent, or other family member. You are not considered the person who is primarily responsible if the child is legally, physically, or financially maintained by a child welfare agency. If this is the case, the agency may receive the children's special allowance for their care. The Canada Workers Benefit, or CWB for short, is a refundable tax credit that provides a financial boost to individuals and families who are in the workforce and earning a low income. The CWB has two parts: a basic amount and a disability supplement for those with an approved disability tax credit certificate. For single individuals, the maximum basic amount is $1,518 a year. No basic amount is paid if your adjusted family net income is more than $35,095. For families, the maximum basic amount is $2,616 a year. No basic amount is paid if your adjusted family net income is more than $45,934. The maximum CWB amount will be different for residents of Alberta, Nunavut, and Quebec. The Government of Canada was giving financial assistance to help Ukrainian families in Canada under the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel, or CUAET. The last day to apply for a visitor visa under the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel was July 15th, 2023. If an application was submitted before July 15th, 2023, it will still be processed. If you're Ukrainian or the family member of a Ukrainian and want to apply for a visitor visa after July 15th, you can still apply through the regular process. The assistance is a one-time, non-taxable benefit administered by Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada. It is not considered income from a source and does not need to be reported on the income tax and benefit return. Most banks will ask you to provide a social insurance number. This is for tax purposes. You do not need a SIN to apply for financial assistance. However, if you plan to work in Canada, you will need a SIN. To find a Service Canada office near you, or for more information on applying for a SIN, go to the web addresses on your screen or call the toll-free numbers. Now we'll go over some tax credits that are available. Tax credits are amounts that you can claim on your tax return to reduce the income tax you may have to pay. They may even reduce your tax bill to zero. There are two different types of tax credits available: refundable and non-refundable. Refundable tax credits are credits that can be paid to you if you are eligible and can result in a refund. Or they are paid in a series of payments through the year to assist with living expenses. Non-refundable tax credits can help reduce or eliminate the tax you may have to pay. They cannot create a refund. So if you owe $600 in taxes and you're entitled to $500 in non-refundable tax credits, the credit will reduce what you owe to $100. But in the same scenario, if you owe $200 instead of the $600, the $500 non-refundable tax credit will reduce the taxes you owe to zero, but you will not receive a refund for the $300 difference. So what is the disability tax credit? In Canada, we recognize that persons with disabilities face many barriers, including additional expenses. The purpose of the DTC is to provide some relief for unavoidable additional expenses that result from living with a disability. This helps offset costs other taxpayers don't have to face. The Disability Tax Credit, or DTC for short, helps persons with disabilities or their family members who support them reduce the amount of income tax they may have to pay. The DTC is a non-refundable tax credit. This means that you don't get a payment for claiming it, but it reduces the amount of tax you may have to pay. You can also transfer any unused portion to a supporting family member. If you're eligible for the DTC and you're 18 years of age or older, the amount you can claim on your 2023 tax return is $9,428. If you're eligible for the DTC and were under 18 years of age at the end of the year, or if you're the parent of a child who is under 18 and is eligible for the DTC, you can claim up to an additional $5,500. Being eligible for the DTC can act as a gateway to other federal, provincial, and territorial programs, such as the Registered Disability Savings Plan, the Canada Workers Benefit Disability Supplement, and the Child Disability Benefit. This makes it important to apply for the DTC, even if you have a low income or no income, so you can qualify for other disability-related programs, benefits, and plans. You cannot access these critical programs without first qualifying for the DTC. Please note that provincial and territorial disability amounts and tax credit rates vary among provinces and territories. The Child Disability Benefit is a tax-free payment of up to $3,173 annually. It's made for families who care for a child under age 18 who is eligible for the disability tax credit. If you are already getting the Canada Child Benefit for a child in your care who is eligible for the disability tax credit, you do not need to apply for the Child Disability Benefit. You will receive it automatically. The Child Disability Benefit is paid monthly to the person who receives the CCB for that child. A child is eligible for the disability tax credit when the CRA approves the Form T2201, on which a medical practitioner has certified that the child has a severe and prolonged impairment in physical or mental functions that affects their ability to perform one or more of the basic activities of daily living. The Canada Caregiver Credit is a non-refundable tax credit for those who support a spouse or common law partner or a dependent with a physical or mental impairment. The credit may also be claimed for an individual's or their spouse's or common law partner's child, grandchild, parent, grandparent, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, niece, or nephew. An individual is considered to depend on someone for support if they rely on them to regularly and consistently provide them with some or all of the basic necessities of life, such as food, shelter, and clothing. Another non-refundable tax credit you may be able to claim are medical expenses. You can claim eligible medical expenses that you or your spouse or common law partner paid for yourselves and your children under 18 years of age. You can also claim eligible medical expenses that you or your spouse or common law partner paid for certain family members who depended on you for support and were residents of Canada at any time in the year. In terms of expenses, you can claim a wide range of products, procedures, and services, such as medical supplies, dental care, and travel expenses. But you can only claim the part of an eligible expense for which you have not been or will not be reimbursed. So if you've received a portion of the cost you paid through an insurance claim, you can't claim the amount that was reimbursed. To find out what benefits you may be eligible for, you can use the Benefits Finder online. By answering a few questions, the Benefits Finder will customize a list of benefits for which you may be eligible. Go to the first web address on your screen. If you want to get an estimate of the payment amounts you could get, go to the second web address on your screen. The CRA calculator tool calculates any federal and provincial or territorial payments you may be eligible for. Once your benefit payments start, there are 3 things you'll need to do to keep getting them. First, make sure to do your taxes every year after you become a resident of Canada. The CRA can't calculate your benefit and credit payments without your tax information. Second, make sure the CRA has your most recent personal information. Notify the CRA of any changes to your address, direct deposit information, marital status, and the number of children in your care. Third, respond as early as possible to any letters you might get from the CRA. If you need some extra time, contact us. The key to receiving your benefits and credits is doing your taxes on time. We know it's not a fun process and it can be a bit scary for some, but it's so important. Benefit and credit payments are calculated based on your family's net income. This is why you need to do your taxes every year after you become a resident of Canada. If you have a spouse or common law partner, they also have to do their taxes. Even if you didn't earn any income in the year, we need this information. In Canada, the tax year is the same as the calendar year, from January to December, and tax returns are generally due by April 30th of the next year. As a newcomer to Canada, you don't have to do a tax return the year you become a resident of Canada. So if you became a resident of Canada in February 2022, you will do your first tax return in 2023. This tax return will cover the income you receive from February to December 2022. Doing your taxes on time ensures your benefit and credit payments aren't delayed or stopped. So there are a few different ways to do your taxes. Doing your taxes online is the fastest and the easiest way. You can use tax software or a web application. These are available at the first web address shown on the screen. Tax software guides you through the process and calculates everything for you. It helps make sure you don't miss out on any benefits and credits. And some products are even free. Volunteers may be able to help you do your taxes for free. There are tax clinics hosted by community organizations across Canada for those with a modest income and a simple tax situation. For more information, go to the second web address on your screen. You can also get help from a family member, a friend, or a tax preparer. Or you can download a tax package, fill out the paper forms, and mail them to the CRA. You must use the tax package for the province you lived in on December 31st. To get a tax package, go to the last web address or call the number on your screen. You may be wondering what to do with your documents after you've filed. When filing electronically, keep all receipts and documents in case the CRA asks to see them later. For a paper return, the instructions will tell you what documents need to be attached, such as receipts and tax slips. Keep all receipts and documents for at least 6 years after you file your return, as the CRA may ask to review them. So as I just mentioned, you may be able to get your taxes done by a volunteer for free. The CRA works with community organizations and their volunteers to help eligible individuals file their taxes for free. The program is called the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program. In Quebec, it's known as the Income Tax Assistance Volunteer Program. And you're eligible if you have a modest income and a simple tax situation. Generally, a modest income is less than $35,000 for a single person and less than $45,000 for a couple. Your tax situation is simple if you don't have a small business or income from rental property. Tax clinics are held all year. However, most clinics are offered in March and April. During the pandemic, we have created virtual tax clinics to serve those who may not have access to an in-person location. For more information or to find a clinic near you, go to the web address on the screen. If there's been a major change in your life, you should update your information with the CRA as soon as possible. It's important to let the CRA know if there are changes to things like your mailing or home address, your marital status, the number of children in your care, your direct deposit information, or if you experience a death in your family. Along with doing your taxes every year, keeping your information up to date will allow you to keep getting the right benefit and credit payments. You can update this information using My Account, My CRA, or My Benefits CRA mobile applications, by mail, or an agent can assist by phone. Next, we'll give an overview of what to expect if the CRA contacts you, along with some tips to help you be scam smart by understanding and recognizing the different types of scams. You should be careful when you get a telephone call, a text message, an email, or mail from someone claiming to be from the CRA. This is especially true if it asks for personal information, such as the number on your credit card, bank account, or passport. These messages may insist that personal information is needed so that you can receive a refund or a benefit payment. They can also threaten legal consequences to scare you into paying a debt to the CRA that does not actually exist. There are also other communications that may urge taxpayers to visit fake CRA websites where you are asked to verify your identity by entering personal information. These are scams, and you should never respond to these fraudulent communications or click on any of the links provided. It's important to be vigilant when it comes to scammers. The CRA can contact you by telephone. They may call if you owe tax or money to a government program. A collections officer may call you to discuss your file and ask you to make a payment. In this case, you may need to provide some information about your household financial situation, or if they have questions about the tax and benefit records or documents you sent. A CRA officer may call you for more information. When the CRA calls you, they may verify your identity by asking for personal information, such as your full name, date of birth, address and account, or social insurance number. Remember, the CRA will not demand immediate payments with gift cards, prepaid credit cards, or Bitcoin. The CRA won't say the police is coming or threaten a prison sentence or deportation. You may think that you received a text message or email from the CRA, but did you really? There may be times when the CRA will notify you by email when a new message or a document, such as a notice of assessment or reassessment, is available for you to view in secure CRA portals, such as My Account, My Business Account, or Represent a Client. Or You may have subscribed to receive an email notification about an upcoming benefit payment. Note that we will never ask you to provide personal information in return by email. However, the CRA may email you a link to a CRA webpage, form, or publication that you asked during a telephone call. Also, the CRA will not use instant messaging such as Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp to communicate with you about tax-related issues under any circumstance. If you receive a text or instant message claiming to be from the CRA, beware, since it could be a scam. When in doubt, you should ask yourself why the CRA would need your personal information. Do I have a balance owing? Am I expecting more money from the CRA? Check and see if you have mail or an amount owing in my account. If you're unsure, you should contact the CRA. Never click on a link unless you are sure it's from the CRA. When in doubt, delete. Visit canada.ca/b-scam-smart to learn more. You can report a scam to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre at the web address or the phone number on your screen. If you suspect you may be the victim of fraud, you should contact your local police service. Do you want to learn more about taxes and how to do a tax return? Well, we can help. Check out our free online interactive tool, Learn About Your Taxes. Through simple and interactive web content, you will learn what you need when starting your first job, figuring out your paycheck, what you need to know before doing your taxes, and how to do a basic tax return. It has resources such as videos, common tax terms, and links to websites where you can learn more. More topics will be added, including what you should know after doing your taxes, and more on benefits and credits. Be sure to check it out at the address on your screen. So while we're wrapping up this information session, we would like to invite you to fill out our short feedback form and provide any comments you wish to share with us. Your feedback will allow us to improve our future sessions and our products. You can access the form by scanning the QR code or by typing in the address on the screen. You can also make note of the address and the activity number and wait to fill it out at home. The activity number of today's event is 87529. The link to the feedback form will also be shared with the organization hosting today's event. You can always reach out to them to get the links. Make sure you don't put in any personal information like your name, social insurance number, phone number, or email address in your comments. We appreciate you taking the time to provide your feedback. This is the end of our webinar, so we thank you so much for joining us today. And if there are any questions, we will be able to answer them now.
Thank you very much, Shelley and team. That was a great presentation. Дуже дякую, as we say. Thank you very much. And thank you to Ivana for the translation there. So I'm going to, we're going to go to our question and answer period. And unfortunately, my co-host Dimitro has had to depart, but that's fine. I know we have a lot of experienced people on the line with us. So just as a reminder, if you have a question, you can write it into the Q&A section. And I see Jamie has been answering questions during the presentation. I'm just going to shut the slides off here. And so if you have a question, you can write it in English or in Ukrainian. We can translate into English from Ukrainian for Jamie or for Aaron or Shelley. And we will just take a few minutes to let people write in any additional questions that they have. But again, thank you to the team at CRA for that great presentation. I always learn a lot of things from these presentations, and I know that our audience does as well. So Jamie, just looking at the questions you've answered already, is there any trend or anything that you wanted to highlight for people of questions you've already answered?
Not necessarily, but I think there are questions around filing their first tax return, and a couple of questions there about any monies that they receive that will help out with just the cost of being in Canada and raising a family. If those funds, the QIT funding clearly is not taxable, but as well if someone is receiving funds from family or from community groups, that also is not something that would be taxable. So just wanted to clear that up. I know there was a question that I didn't get a chance to answer, but Katerina's question about, is it possible to receive payments for periods in 2023 since this is the first tax period? She arrived in 2023. So just on that one, I'd like to answer that one out loud. Katerina, for amounts for 2023, it would be based on your 2022 tax return. So if you only arrived in 2023, we wouldn't be able to use the 2022 tax return. But usually when we indicate that people should apply as soon as they arrive, some of those payments are made out to you clearly before you file your tax return. So the main thing for you, Katerina, would be to apply for the GST HST credit and then the associated Canada carbon rebate and so on.
Okay, great, thank you. So there's a couple, these two are in Ukrainian, so it's just the first one from Natalia. It says, which documents do I need for the CWB? For the
CWB, so the Canada Workers Benefit, that is based really on the documents that you provide on tax filing. So when someone works, they might not work all the time, but they may be working, a couple of small jobs, and they make income that fits within the threshold. When they complete their tax return, you will see that if they go to one of our free tax clinics, that's one of the reasons why we promote our free tax clinics. The information that's provided into the tax software will automatically calculate whether or not you're eligible for the Canada Workers Benefit based on your income information. So T4 information, or if maybe you're receiving social assistance, or you could be receiving employment insurance. When you file your tax return based on the income information you provide, you will be determined at that point whether you're eligible for the Canada Workers Benefit.
Okay. There's another question that I'll just translate here for you for the team.
Sure.
So the question is about somebody who receives payments through e-transfers, and the question is how to is it possible should she be using the income received from e-transfer payments, or is there another way to is a self-employed person to categorize income received?
Okay, so the question around electronic funds transfers, I guess, is more importantly, what are they receiving them for? If they're receiving them from friends or family members to support them in life here in Canada, then that wouldn't be taxable. If that's how they're receiving payment for income, then they would want to make sure that they keep track of the amounts that they receive. And at the end of the tax, when it comes time to file a tax year, that would be their gross income. That would be their income before expenses or before deductions. And it's really important for someone to file, their income each year based on their situation and how much income that they earned. For someone who's self-employed, there would be some tax possible that they would have to pay after completing that. So that might generate a tax bill if you weren't putting away tax every paycheck, or in this case, every time they received a funds transfer.
Right.
But it's still really important for them to file.
Okay. There's a couple of questions and kind of ongoing threads in the question and answer. So I think there's been a couple, I don't know who's been answering, but there's a couple of questions from people who are having trouble with T4 slips and stubs. Maybe, I don't know if that was Aaron or Jamie, can you sort of answer that live for people? Because I know it's been coming up with a couple of, what are the options people have about T4s if they're not getting them from their employer?
They do have a few options. And I think I would always, if Aaron or Shelley has anything to add to this, but your employer is required to provide you with that information each year. They're required to provide you with a T4, and it should have been in the mail before the end of February. So they're required to get them out before the end of February. If they haven't done that, sometimes maybe a person has moved and they don't have your current address. So you can go to, you may have to go back to the employer. Sometimes the employer is not willing. You can file your income tax based on your pay stubs. That would be the best, your best estimate would be the best thing to do. You could also go to Service Canada though, and make a complaint or make an inquiry about that, because as we are required to pay taxes each year, employers are required to get that information to you, and there's not a good reason that they should be withholding that. So Service Canada has centers across the country. It would be a good opportunity, and they can, even if you make a request or a complaint about that, they can do the work for you to try and obtain that. It's not easy, and sometimes they get into some employers who either don't want to do it. Sometimes it's that the employer is not a very good bookkeeper and is probably overwhelmed by the process. But that is one path. But don't ever let it make you late filing your taxes, because if you're late filing taxes, we don't know that you didn't receive that information. We wouldn't want to see anyone have a penalty for that. Okay. There's one other thing. Sorry, or just if someone came to one of our tax clinics, we do have volunteers who are able to retrieve your information from the CRA systems. In some cases, I'm not sure that it's 100% of the time for someone who's relatively new to Canada, but sometimes if they are missing the slip, some of our volunteers are able to get that information over it's called autofill my return. So sometimes with the client's permission, we're able to retrieve that information for them. But if you feel that it's missing because the employer hasn't given it, best to reach out to Service Canada on that one.
Okay. So I know you've been very generous with your time, and we're just at about an hour. We still got some questions, some more complicated, some more high level. So maybe I'll go to the second one here, from Irana, which is a question about the child benefit. And I will note for people that we are going to do another webinar at the end of March. I know that that's a couple of weeks away with this group of friends from the CRA about the child benefit. But this question is about child benefit. So the question is, if her husband has lived in Canada 18 months, but the children and mother have come later, would the father be able to submit the form for benefits, or do they have to wait for the children to be here 18 months as well?
I'd like to actually ask Erin if she might answer that, because if you could, Erin, you have the...
I apologize. I was answering a question in the
Oh,
chat.
sorry,
and I
sorry.
didn't have my question.
I believe the
Sorry.
answer is that since the father has been here for the 18 months, that the first parent who's eligible
Yes.
can then apply.
Yes. Sorry.
but
One parent needs,
Mhm.
one parent needs to meet the eligibility requirement. So if that's the father, then he can apply.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. So
Sorry.
we answered that one. Let's just let's do kind of maybe 2 or 3 more questions. And
Okay.
there's 2 questions here. One's in Ukrainian. Actually, they're both in English. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling. There's questions about pension, right? So Ukrainian
Mhm.
citizens might be receiving or eligible for pension from Ukraine. So one question is a pension from Ukraine taxable in Canada? How should it be indicated in the form? And then the other question here is, that's actually from the same person. Is there any way to receive pension benefits for Ukrainian senior in Canada?
Okay, so the question about reporting a pension from another country, it is a fairly it's a fairly simple process to do that. And what we would do would be you'd have your pension income from Ukraine or from another country. It just needs to be changed into Canadian dollars, so calculated or I got the word I'm losing the word I'm looking for, but it needs to be in Canadian dollars. So whether that is it would just be a conversion, sorry, is the word that I was looking for, from the Ukrainian currency to Canadian dollars, and then you report it in Canadian funds.
Okay. Ivana's just going to take a look at, there's a couple of questions here. These will be our last 2 questions. So
Okay.
oh, go ahead, Ivana. Yes, we can. So it's basically that the system is not letting them see the files of the children. Any solution for that? Should they be contacting your folks to work through that? What do you think, Jamie?
We just heard the tail end of that, actually, Igor.
Oh.
Just the last, yeah. So if you could just repeat the question or summarize the question, I guess. I'm sorry, we only heard just the last of it.
Jamie, can you hear Ivana?
Yep. No, just you here.
Ivana, can you type it up in the chat, and then I'll just read it from there? Something's going on. Okay. So I'll just go to the second question, Jamie, and before we get to the first one. So the second question is about the sections for reporting income, and where would expenses for renting of a house or transportation to and from Canada, are they at all eligible in deductions?
The question around transportation, normally there is a deduction for someone who moves within Canada to work, the stipulation there being to work. I'm not sure with individuals coming from outside the country, I wouldn't feel comfortable answering that question. So I would ask that they call CRA at 1-800-959-8281 for an answer to that question. Unfortunately, I'm not fully aware of what the answer to that might be. I know people moving within Canada there is, but the other question you had about rent and things like that, most times on tax returns there isn't a place, unless you're using your home or business place, your home for as a place of business, then there's not a way to claim rent as a deduction. I know in certain provinces there is an ability to claim some of your property tax. I think Ontario might be one of them, where property tax is something that is you can indicate on your tax return. Most provinces of Canada don't have that. So any expenses that you would have relating to your home would be as a part of a small business or something like that. So, and that unfortunately falls outside of our area of expertise. But if a person has a question on that, I can give a telephone number, and that would be 1-800-959-5525 for that question.
Thank you. Okay, we appreciate that. So I think let's use this. We'll have our last question, and Ivana has just put it here. So
Okay.
The person was just writing in Ukrainian to say that the first application for child benefit was not approved because the kids were less than 18 months. Now that they've been here longer, they're having trouble with the second application going through. So what would be your advice for them to adjust that or address that?
Yeah, the advice would be, and Aaron or Shelley, feel free to step in. The advice would be that clearly applying early was that wasn't going to get approved. But now, if they have questions and they think there's something that may be holding it up, they should reach out to the benefits section of CRA. So 1-800-387-1193. I believe though that it's likely that they're looking for some proof of birth. So to confirm a child's information, they should send a photocopy of these documents, and I'll list them here. So a birth certificate, a certified copy of birth registration, hospital record of birth or the record of the attending physician, passport, acceptable documents issued by Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada. So it's probably around just the proof of the children. So, but the way to remedy that would be to call the benefits line, 1-800-387-1193. They'd be able to answer those. They'd be able to tell them what is likely missing, because it's probably just might be something that's missing. Aaron or Shelley, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's great. That they should call just to find out what's going on with their application.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap up the questions there.
Okay.
And I did want to just, I'm going to share the screen for a second to our expert insights page, just to show everyone that we do have lots of upcoming webinars coming up, including with this team here. So on the Thursday night, we're talking about the health systems. On the 14th, we're talking about employment insurance with Service Canada. And then our friends in the Yukon have reached out to tell us about life in the Yukon on the 21st. And then we're back with this group of people on the 27th of March to talk about the Canada Child Benefit in more detail. And that's just takes us to the end of March, and we will be having a series of April, May, June webinars as well. We're working with Service Canada and various agencies to come up with some good topics and good experts to present on those. So again, thank you to the Canada Ukraine Foundation for their support. Tonight, thank you to Ivana for translating, to Jamie, Shelley, and Aaron for the great presentation and answering many questions directly with our participants. I know that it's a long presentation, but it's certainly an important one, and that all of our guests here appreciate the time and the diligence that you give to giving them good information. So I'll say good night, dobranic, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.